All right, we are now live on YouTube.
Okay. It's 9:01 a.m. and I would like to call it to order the meeting of the Transportation Committee of Thursday, August 25th, 2022. Before we begin, please note this meeting is live streamed on YouTube and recorded. Members of the public are encouraged to watch and listen to the meeting online or by dialing into 415-569-6646. 415-569-6646 for the audio of the meeting. If you would like to provide public comment in today's meeting, and if you haven't done so already, please call the same number, 415-569-6446, and let the facilitator know what items you would like to speak to today. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Thank you, and good morning again, everyone. Starting with Director Maston.
Here.
Thank you. Director Rabbit.
Here.
Director Rodoni.
Here.
Director Snyder. Director Snyder's not on yet. Director Thier.
Here.
Vice Chair Hill.
Here.
Chair Arnold is absent, and President Tiria.
Here.
Thank you. You have a quorum. You're also a committee of the whole. Also on the line, we have directors Cochran, Garbarino, Grosboll, Hernandez, and Parr. I'll confirm staff on the line. Dennis Mulligan.
Present.
Thank you. Joe Wire.
Yes.
Eva Barr-Furbish.
Present.
Thank you. Kim Manolius.
I'm here.
And Madeline Chen is also on the line.
Yes, good morning.
Thank you. Dave Rivera.
Good morning, President.
Thank you. Mona Babauta is not on the line. Jim Swindler is not on the line. Let's see. Kelly Hopper.
Good morning.
Thank you. And Hytham. Hytham, you're here with us?
Yes, good morning.
Great. Yeah. All right. That confirms staff that's going to be presenting and also our executive team on the line. So I'll turn it back to you.
Okay, thank you. I would like to remind everyone to mute their microphones until after the staff's presentation, and remember to unmute when we open up for the director's discussion. If we have directors calling in by phone, please use your mute button or the *6 to unmute yourself. After staff's presentation, I will be asking for any questions or comments on the item. Click on the raise hand function if you have a question, or press *9 if you're joining by phone. We'll try to see you if you're going by hand also, but the directed one through Zoom is probably more secure. If there are any questions, the secretary or I will call upon you accordingly. If we missed your raised hand, please speak up. Thank you. After our discussion, we will ask for any public comment before moving on. Please follow along by referring to the page numbers located in the bottom right-hand corner of your meeting packet. Madam Secretary, please introduce the first item.
Thank you again. The first item is going to be item number 3, which is the informational report regarding the district's advisory committees. And that report is located on pages 3 to 24 of your packet. Staff is available to answer any questions that the committee may have.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, are there any questions or comments from directors regarding item number 3? Well, let's see.
Not seeing any.
That's the advisory committee. Okay, we'll start with the agenda item number 3, which is an informational report regarding the district's advisory committees. The report is located on page 3 to 24 of your packet, and staff is able to answer any questions from directors. Are there any questions? Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from directors regarding item 3?
Doesn't look like we have any, and we have no public comments on this item.
Hearing none. Okay, that concludes discussion of this item. Madam Secretary, is there anyone from the public wishing to speak on item 3?
No speakers on this item.
Okay. Thank you. No action is required for item 3. Madam Secretary, please continue to the next item.
Thanks. We're going to move on to item number 4, and that's to approve the execution of an interagency agreement with Marin Transit for local fixed route bus services. And that staff report begins on page 25. And Operations Control Center Manager Hytham Hamden is here to present the report. Hytham, go ahead and start your report.
Thank you, Amaret. Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. Item number 4 is a new intergovernmental agency agreement between the Golden Gate Bridge Highway and Transportation District and the Marin County Transit District. The Bridge District has provided fixed route bus services within Marin County in partnership with the Marin County Transit District for more than 50 years. And this new agreement strengthens and continues this important relationship with Marin Transit and the County of Marin. The new agreement includes a higher hourly rate. It also clarifies a number of terms and definitions. It contains a new paratransit cost sharing formula and provides certainty to both parties by having a long-term contract. With that, I will briefly review the key features in the new agreement. First, the new contract has a length of 3 years and 9 months with 2 one-year options and is scheduled to begin on October 1st, 2022. Under the new contract, the parties have agreed to increase the hourly rate from $132.55 to $153.70 per revenue hour. The new hourly rate bundles several expenses that are currently billed separately under the current contract. The new hourly rate will include operating expenses for the Sanderville Transit Center, current levels of customer service support, light maintenance on Marin Transit bus stops, repair and maintenance supplies and tires for Marin Transit buses, and general liability insurance. In correlation with the hourly rate and consistent with our existing agreement, we have agreed to a range of revenue hours of between 25,000 and 75,000 annually. The range of hours provides the flexibility for both parties to meet the changing needs of Marin Transit customers. In addition, the parties have agreed to a new formula for calculating the share of Marin County local paratransit costs. The final key item of this agreement is the parties' commitment to engage in a joint electrification study to identify ways that both agencies can effectively partner to comply with the requirements and deadlines set forth in CARB's ICT rule and for the rollout of zero emission buses. Finally, I would like to take this opportunity to thank all district and Marin Transit staff members who have diligently worked together to come to this important agreement. And if you have any questions, staff is happy to answer them for you. Thank you.
Hytham, thank you for your presentation. Are there any questions or comments from directors on item number 4?
I had a
All right.
Is that
We have
you?
a few hands up. Actually, we have Director Maston with his hand up, also Director Rodoni and Director Thier.
Okay. In that order?
Director Maston, go ahead.
Excuse me. Good morning. On page 27, in the fiscal impact, the increase between years 24, 25, 25, 26 is very small compared to the other years. And I was just curious as to why that hourly rate changed so little.
So I'll jump in. I'll spare Hytham this one. It was a negotiated settlement, and we were interested in seeing an increase in the hourly rate to reflect our greater costs. And so we have a much greater increase in the first couple years of the contract. The reality is that when the American Rescue Plan passed, MTC allocated money under the American Rescue Plan, and they gave Marin Transit a little bit of extra money, $2 million, for the increased costs associated with all their vendors, including us, their largest vendor. And so they front loaded that increase to us. But if you subtract that increase from the amount, they basically did a 3% increase per year on the original base amount, minus that extra American Rescue Plan bump that we were very fortunate to be able to direct to Marin Transit's way from MTC.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll move on to Director Rodoni.
Good morning, everyone. I too just wanted to thank both staffs for negotiating this agreement. This partnership is so important to both Marin County and the Golden Gate Transit District that it's such an important document and contract that we continue to work together collaboratively because we have a really difficult future ahead of us, I think, in public transit. And so it's a great partnership, and just want to thank everyone for making this happen and bringing it to the board. And I do sit on the Marin Transit Board also, so I wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Thank you. And then we have Director Thier.
So following Supervisor Rodoni is never easy. I want to echo his comments. That's exactly what I was going to say, however, probably not as eloquent. This is a critical partnership with Marin Transit. It provides service to so many more riders than could be served otherwise. In addition, I want to commend staff for the work on this. I know that it was a lot of work getting here. I also just wanted to highlight how excited I am that there is a path towards electrification of bus fleets, which I do think will be the future and will do a lot to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and is part of this the Golden Gate Bridge District's commitment to stemming the tide of climate. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. Are there any other board members? Hearing none, that concludes our discussion on this item. Before we take our vote, Madam Secretary, is there anyone from the public wishing to speak on item number 4?
We do. We have one public commenter, and that's David Pilpel in a second. David, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Excellent. Good morning. David Pilpel. So I think this proposal is fair for both parties, but two major comments. If Golden Gate permanently reduces commute service along the lines of what's currently out there, then I think the district's hourly costs may be lower currently and going forward, and perhaps could be negotiated during the term of this agreement. The major issue that drives the district's transit operating costs are labor, and the major component of that labor cost historically has been the large spread between early morning pullouts and late evening pull-ins caused by the high commute level service and what's called the peak to base ratio, that the ratio of the number of vehicles in peak service is much higher, or had been much higher at Golden Gate compared to other comparable transit agencies in the Bay Area. But to the extent that commute service is way down because commute ridership is way down, then the service configuration is much different on Golden Gate now. And so the spread penalty that has resulted in historically high operator run pay at Golden Gate is not there. If that continues, then again, I think that will result in lower costs, and that could be translated into a change to the agreement. That's up to the parties to negotiate. Finally, if Golden Gate is not essentially using the Division 2 facility in Novato, then I think that property could be leased, but I would not sell it, but could be leased to Marin Transit for their use, addressing their ongoing need for facilities to house their fleets, which are all over the county. So those are my two comments about the hourly costs and about Division 2 in Novato and its future. But again, I think this proposal is fair. I would commend it to you for your approval, and I appreciate the work by various people on staff to get this to you. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Pilpel. Does anyone want to make a comment? Any director or Dennis? No? Okay. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak?
We're going to pull one more time just in case. After we started the meeting, we do have a number of people that joined, so we want to give everyone the opportunity to speak. So if you can give us just a second, we like to pull one more time.
Okay.
Justine, go ahead. All right, we have no other speakers on this item.
Okay. Thank you then. I will I will now entertain a motion on item number 4. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, please do a roll call.
All right, great, thank you. And
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I looked down for just a second. Who was the first?
It says I will entertain a motion. Yeah, we have a first. I'm sorry.
So I'll take Director Thier as a first, and then we'll look for a second. Oh, I see Director Parr's hand up. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you, Director Parr. You saved me.
Thank you. I was just trying to keep everyone honest this morning. Thank you. I'm going to go down and we're going to do the roll call with the first and second on item 4, and we'll start with Director Arnold, who's absent. Director Conroy is also absent. Director Garbarino.
Aye.
Director Giudice is absent. Director Grosball.
Aye.
Director Hernandez.
Aye.
Director Maston.
Aye.
Director Parr.
Aye.
Director Rabbit.
Aye.
Director Rodoni.
Aye.
Director Snyder.
Aye.
Director Stephanie. Absent. Director Thier.
Aye.
Second Vice President Hill.
Yes.
First Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
And President Tirio.
Yes.
Thank you. You have 12 ayes.
Okay. Thank you. The motion passes. Madam Secretary, please continue on the agenda.
Thank you. We're going to move on to item number 5, which is a monthly report on bridge traffic transit ridership trends and transit performance. And that staff report begins on page 29. And Dennis is here to help answer any questions and present this report. Dennis, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. We formatted the report a little bit to make it a little more useful in light of the continued long tail of the pandemic. So if you go to the second page of the report, which is page 30 of the packet, you'll see since the start of the pandemic, how much bridge total traffic is down, the AM peak southbound and the PM peak southbound. And the AM peak is key because that's our moneymaker. So you'll see for June of 2022, overall bridge traffic was down 19.3%, but most telling, the commute was down almost a third. It was down 32.8%. So while there's lots of activity and local roads are really busy in the neighborhoods of San Francisco and throughout Marin County, we still do not have people in significant numbers commuting across the corridor from Marin County and Sonoma counties into San Francisco, as demonstrated by that bridge AM peak. That's a 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. number, and it's still down significantly. You notice the afternoon numbers, people going southbound, is not down nearly as much. So weekend and midday and afternoon traffic is much closer to normal. What's really missing from our travel numbers in the Golden Gate Corridor is the commute service. Then we simplified the table. So if you scroll down to the next page, page 31, you'll see the ferry numbers on top. And, March of 2020 was down 67.6%. Then you go over 2 columns, you drop down to June. In June, ferry ridership was down 51.2%. In the last year, it's come back significantly, about 10 times. You compare the 51.2% to June of last year, where it's down 90.4%. So a lot of that is that we are seeing a very slow, gradual return of commuters on bus and ferry. But what's really helping ferry is recreational travel. Giants Ballpark, Angel Island, Sausalito. The tourists are back. We now are doing 2 boats out of Sausalito in the afternoon again, which we started a couple months ago for the first time since the start of the pandemic. So on the ferry side, the numbers are helped very much by recreational and tourist traffic. We have slowly added a little bit of Larkspur service, but for perspective, before the pandemic, we had 42 trips a day on weekdays from Larkspur to San Francisco, back and forth. Today, we're at 22. We continue to incrementally add service as there's a return of commuters. We look forward to adding 2 more trips from San Francisco back to Larkspur in the evening next month. On the bus side, you scroll down a little bit further on page 31, it's down about the same as ferry. It's down a little bit more, actually. It hasn't bounced back quite as much because it doesn't have a recreational component, but it's down about 56.6%. Of note, it's the commute service that has not bounced back. Our regional service, if you hop on at 101 on the weekend or Route 130, the bus is pretty full, but the commute service is where it hasn't come back yet. And so that affects our need for staffing levels, but it is starting to slowly come back. For perspective on the bus side, before the pandemic, in the morning, we had 25 trips leaving Mill Valley, the Route 4 it was then called, going to San Francisco. Today, the Route 114, the same trip, so with a different name, we only have 4, and 4 is more than enough. So the commute is coming back, but it's coming back slowly, and we are continuing to add service as it comes back. If you go to the next page, page 32, it talks about the efficiency of the service with respect to passengers per trip and fare box. And on the bus side, the number of passengers per trip looks pretty good. It's 21. It's important to note that that number and the fare box recovery at 11.8% is greatly aided by the district's decision to start picking up and dropping off passengers in San Francisco. I cannot overstate the importance of that, of keeping our little commute service that we have out there alive. We could have a Route 172 bus leaving Santa Rosa coming to the toll plaza with 8 people on it. And by the time it approaches the financial district, it'll have standees. Every seat will be filled. So early in the pandemic, the first couple of days, when Muni cut service drastically, we started picking up and dropping off passengers within San Francisco, and the board made that permanent last month. But that is definitely helping our numbers, which helps us when we undergo regional and federal scrutiny as part of our reporting to the National Transit Database. So on the commute service, a lot of the passengers are people that we pick up and drop off in San Francisco. We can, at a single stop, have 20 passengers get on a bus in San Francisco. Our buses is the fastest way to get from certain neighborhoods to the financial district. And so that's been observed, picked up, and spread through social media in San Francisco. And it is helping our numbers. The good news is we're seeing a slow, steady return. The bad news is it's slow, but we anticipate that we'll continue to see this return as more and more employers adjust to the pandemic and their return to work policies. And with that, I'm available to answer any questions you may have on this item.
Are there any questions? Hearing none.
We do. We have, looks like
Mr. Chair,
Supervisor Rabbit.
I had a question.
Okay, thank you.
President.
Okay, we have several. All right, we'll start with Director Rabbit, then Director Thier, and then we'll have Director Grosboll. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And thank you to the general manager for that report, and appreciate that. And I know that school is just getting back into session. Not sure how that will affect us, especially with the commute to the city. I was just going to ask, and I admit I don't remember seeing this of late at MTC, any kind of comparison or anything to pick up or gleaned from the other transit agencies around, Dennis, and how different or unique or not are we at the Golden Gate?
We're not, which is interesting. Local bus service, kind of like local car trips, are bouncing back much faster than longer distance regional commute trips. So our commute bus service and our ferry commute service, particularly out of Larkspur, is more akin to BART, Caltrain, AC Transit's Transbay service, not the local bus service, and WIDA. And so our numbers are in the ballpark of all of those. So we're very similar. Local bus agencies aren't back to 100%, but they've seen much more robust return, just like local traffic has returned in Sonoma and Marin counties, as well as the neighborhoods of San Francisco. So people are out and about for the smaller trips, but they're still reluctant to go into downtown San Francisco. Currently, the vacancy rate for office space in San Francisco, where there's no one holding a lease, is north of 20%. And many of those that have leases wish they could get out of them. And so there's going to be a long, slow transition as downtown San Francisco repurposes. Some office space has already been changed into bioscience lab space. Employers are kind of sorting out the return to work policies. But we do anticipate the start of school will help a little bit, but it's going to be a slow, steady slog. We're kind of in the ballpark with the other regional operators. Our Sausalito service is very robust in the afternoon with tourists. And so, that part's a little different. That part's a little unique. It's more akin to the cable car in San Francisco. But we're kind of tracking similar to the other Bay Area transit operators. In general, though, San Francisco is way behind the rest of the country in the reopening of the downtown.
All right. We have Director Thier.
Thank you so much, General Manager Mulligan, for that report. The question I had was about the projections for, ridership increasing. Can you just talk a little bit more about that? What projections there are out there? Which ones do you think are, reliable? What we can expect in the next, 5 years?
Yeah, I think the best projection, the best information is something that I include a link in my general manager report to every month. The Metropolitan Transportation Commission and the Bay Area Council do a monthly poll of employers to say, what are your plans? And so the data's bounced around a lot. We all forget that a year ago, June 15th was a grand reopening of California. And everyone went out and ran to restaurants, and employers were telling people you got to be back to work next month. But then the Delta variant hit, and that all went sideways, and then we survived the Omicron variants. So that those numbers bounce around, but that link in my GM report shows you kind of what the larger employers are saying in the Bay Area. And I think that's very helpful. The trend is most employers want people back in the office a couple days a week, but you can read newspaper articles about how some of the employees are rebelling and stuff. So it's going to take a while, but there's too much invested in downtown San Francisco. So it will ultimately bounce back. It's just going to take a couple years.
Are
All
there
right,
any
thank you. We do have one more, Director Grosboll.
Okay.
Yeah, Dennis, I know early on in the pandemic period, there had been complaints about some of the lines being cut, both the ferries and the buses. Are you getting many complaints now about getting some of the bus lines and ferry lines reinstituted? And is there any pattern of particular ones, or is there a next step? I'm just curious.
Yes, we have incrementally added service back. The biggest complaints we were getting was Southern Marin, and there was a demand for lots of service. And we added 4 trips, and all that hullabaloo went away. So we didn't need the 25 trips we had historically. We just needed a little bit. So Mona and her team, and Jim and his team, working with our planning staff, has added little bits of service here and there. And so we'll continue to do that. But I think the hullabaloo has quieted down in the complaints. We did early on have some complaints from people, regional riders, saying, why are the people getting on the bus in San Francisco? I don't like this. Someone is seated next to me. But I think our customers have acclimated to that. We've been careful about educating folks to the extent they'll listen to us, that we need those passengers and we need that fare revenue because it helps us when we get state operating assistance. And so we've been communicating. So the complaints have quieted down significantly, but we will continue to add service back. One of our challenges will be on the bus driver side, hiring bus operators. We currently have a class with 5 operators in it. I want to thank the board for approving the bus reorg last fall, because that allowed us to increase the staffing in the safety and training department. So we'll be able to offer 2 classes at the same time. So we have a class of 5 now. We'll start a class middle of next month that will overlap. They'll be going on the same time with the extra staffing and safety and training. And that'll have probably a dozen students in it. And then we've embarked upon, with the ATU Local 1575, California Transit Works, and the Apprenticeship Standards Board, an outreach project and a new program for pre-apprenticeships for bus operators with College of Marin and with Santa Rosa Community College. And so we are staffing up, and we will need to hire more operators, and we'll have to bring our staffing levels, back up to add that extra service. But right now we are meeting the needs of the customers. Some of our commute service, if we weren't picking up people in San Francisco, would appear to be virtually empty buses. And so that has been a key component of our strategy, but the regional demand we are meeting. Larkspur, we have 1 trip leaving San Francisco that returns to Larkspur at 5:30 in the afternoon. That's by far our busiest commute trip. And that's why we're looking at adding 2 trips perhaps next month. That trip typically is carrying on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays about 350 passengers. on a 450 passenger boat. So, people are coming back slowly. And, the challenge for us is to something we don't control, which is employers telling people get back in the office in the city, and the repurposing of offices to different uses that bring people back.
Thank you.
Are there any more questions from directors? Seeing none. Emra, do you see any?
I see no other hands up.
Okay, that concludes discussion on this item. Madam Secretary, is there anyone from the public wishing to speak on item number 5?
We have no speakers for item number 5.
Okay, thank you. No action is required on this informational report. Madam Secretary, please continue with the agenda.
We're going to move on to item 6 for a monthly report on activities related to Marin Transit. Dennis, do you have anything else to report related to item number 6?
No, this report is usurped pleasantly by the item that the committee just approved for the new multi-year contract.
Okay. Pause for any public response or director response. Is there anyone waiting to speak from the public? Emma?
We have no speakers from the public on this item.
Okay, just to check. Thank you. We have reached the end of the agenda. May I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So moved, Rabbit.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, Terrio.
Thank you. Hearing no objection, this concludes the meeting of the Transportation Committee. Thank you, colleagues. The time is 9:32 a.m.
Thank you. We will start B&O at, how about this, in 3 minutes on the 9:35. Thank you.
Okay.